the link and then go. I should probably put my agenda in a spot where I can actually read it. That would be good. Even though we're totally already live. Ladies and gentlemen of the interwebs, welcome to the Beacon TVL show, the weekly podcast from Beacon DeFi, your beacon in the world of decentralized finance. I'm your host, Professor Chris, your DeFi professor. We've got a great show lined up for you as we tackle the news of the week that's relevant to you, our dear users, in the world of on-chain and blockchain investing. Today on the show, we've got an all-star panel back. We have the head of ecosystem at Drosera Network here to my right on the screen, the man who loves Pokemon packs. Let's bring back Jirachi. Welcome, sir. Welcome back to the panel.
Hey, thank you, brother. I'm happy to be here. I can't deny I got a problem these days. I'll have to tell you about that in a little bit too.
We can certainly open with that because I have an addiction issue on things like that as well. I actually, I'm an approved streamer on Abstract, and I actually got into Gacha, the Gacha protocol there, the Gacha game, and I almost spent like a couple $100 opening some packs for things that I have. I'll be honest, I have no idea what the hell it is.
That's not the important part, though.
That's not exactly. But I just want to say, shout out to Abstract, to Pengu, shout out to Gugo. Bought one of those as well. Run with Gugo was on that space. We had on Monday, I believe. Also on the panel, we have back the head of growth at BitTensor Subnet number 8, the proprietary trading network English Financial. We have Luke back in the house on the panel. Welcome back, sir. How are you?
Great, man. Thanks for having me, Chris. Always a pleasure to be here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, let's kind of open with that. So I was on a really great panel this morning. Shout out to Marcello for having me on. What would your dream game be? If you had infinite funds, you could pitch anything you want. Just to kind of tell you exactly what I am. As an older person, I can definitely say I have a lot, not regrets, but things that I kind of wish I could do over. I don't know if you guys have that issue. So my dream game is a redemption arc action RPG. So it's like there's like all kinds of things where you can kind of make the past right again, or just see what happens if you change things in the past, or really just playing the protagonist, just trying to make things right. I love those types of stories. My personal favorite games are the Final Fantasy series, The Witcher 2 and 3, Horizon Zero Dawn, and Detroit Become Human. By far one of my favorite story lore games I've ever played. So it was really actually meant to kind of have like some undertones of like how to specifically with gamers give them the right skills. Like we need more people in our generation or generations after me who understand financial literacy, both TradFi and on-chain, life skills, soft skills, critical thinking, stuff like that. So that was kind of my morning. But anyway, how's your morning been, Jirachi?
Man, I've had a great one. We've had a really, really good one. I was actually thinking, I was just talking about games this morning. As a matter of fact, I was having some conversations about them earlier. Man, for me, a dream game. So I've played an unhealthy amount of League of Legends. I mean, it's sick. I can't even sit here and pretend like I like League of Legends, but I've played an unhealthy amount of it, and I still do. A lot of love for it. But even though that's my favorite, whenever I see them building stuff like, oh my God, what is it? What are they calling it? Dragon Wilds, was it? RuneScape's like 3D. They're in person, like
yes, RuneScape's coming back. People are trying to stream RuneScape again.
I loved RuneScape. I like Dragon Wilds a lot. It's still got a long way to go, in my opinion, like where it needs to go. But it's cool. I like it. I like it quite a bit. A perfect game for me is always going to end up being an MMO with an economy. Like I loved EVE. I was a huge EVE Online player, pretty big WoW player. I like it whenever we can play around with multiple facets of the economy and like the game itself. So that's always my dream. It's my fave.
What about you, Luke? Are you a gamer at all?
I used to be a lot more back in the day, more so really like a Call of Duty and Halo guy. I think think back to like Halo 3, Black Ops 2. That was really what I enjoyed the most. I didn't play a lot of those games that are kind of like League of Legends. But if I could go back and create an ideal game, it would be something that I guess kind of resembles the great era of Call of Duty that once was. I know that the franchise has kind of fallen off, and recent years, which is unfortunate. But yeah, no, I don't really play too much anymore.
No, I don't blame you, man. Time is one of those things. As you get older, time is like one of those things that's so important. To be rich in time is such a crazy thing to think about, to be quite honest. And now that I sit here, in my late 40s with 3 kids, I'm like, man, it really did just go by so much quicker than I thought it would. And maybe I'm just getting a little woo woo about it, but man, it's kind of crazy. Like, if you don't think about it, how quickly the time will pass you by. So go out there and relish it. Go touch grass. Go have fun. Do all the things that you want to do. Just go out there and enjoy the time.
Real.
So
very true.
Well said.
Exactly, man. Because you only get, I mean, technically in this energy, in this entity, you only get one of them. So go out and make the most of it. So let's check out the markets today. We're seeing a little bit of an uptrend, guys. It's nice to see us back above 110 for Bitcoin. ETH is starting to get bids as well, above 44.50. If we look at bubbles, what's interesting is kind of the different things that are being pushed. One is meme core, which is I don't know a ton about meme core other than just the stories I'm hearing. The pump of IP continues. Is that my siren?
Oh, sorry. That's ambulance
No,
outside.
No, you're fine. Hopefully they're okay. Whatever's going on. Story protocol. After what people were looking at specifically with the leaving of the original CEO and founder, I mean, it's back up 38%. Maybe that's the way it was always supposed to be. Pump. I almost called him pimp. It's too bad it's not called pimp. Pimp.fun would be cool. But pump.fun up 27%. And we'll talk a little bit about Pith in a minute. Pith up a tremendous amount, which is kind of crazy, along with ENA. So let's kind of talk about where the market is looking at. We'll start with you, Jirachi, with regards to how you feel the market's kind of been responding to some very interesting news over the last 7 days.
And some of it makes perfect sense to me. Some of it I can totally see. I can see how it happened. And then, there's things like Pith, which of course has been the golden boy recently. But we've even seen some really great things from anybody who's kind of benefited from the government data coming on chain announcement. There were quite a number of people who experienced quite a big uptick from that. They liked it a lot. It sounded like really good news and really good information. Have I seen a lot of novel ideas about what we can do with that data yet? Not really. I really haven't. I haven't seen a ton of speculation, though I think there's some people who are going to be excited to build as far as using that stuff. But one thing that I thought was really interesting too is, we were kind of in this world where we were, there were daily closes below 110 on Bitcoin. So people were cutting their longs. And then there was a situation where, with that on top of that, they were like, oh, I saw a lot of sentiment that maybe there was like a squeeze in coming for ETH and Sol. But like, if you were getting in on the lows on ETH and Sol anyways, it doesn't really matter. I really can't see a world where a squeeze happened that wipes off the value gained from buying in, in the lows or even earlier this year. So I do still think we're headed in the right direction. Obviously, you already know I'm desperate to see ETH at 5K. That's what I want to see with all my heart. I'm praying for it every day. So that's kind of like what my mind has been targeted on lately. And I probably won't make a lot of movements with my portfolio personally until we get closer to that world where ETH is touching 5K, or things would have to get pretty dramatically worse for me to move around significantly.
Yeah, your thoughts, Luke, because we're seeing a possible rebound on BTC dominance back above where it had been. So, based on what you guys are seeing there at PTN, how do you guys feel that the market's been reacting to a lot of the news that's been happening over the last week?
Yeah, so I think we're actually in a really interesting place. I think the consensus amongst my circle is that we're pretty close to the top, if not already topped on Bitcoin. I think, you're seeing some interesting action in the markets too, given that we have rate cuts expected coming in September, and I believe 2 weeks to the day. And you're seeing, these cuts into inflation, and gold is up big time. I mean, we're seeing gold break new all-time highs. and just putting in a massive weekly candle right now. And BTC is, I mean, it's following this week, but hasn't had the same trend that gold has. So I think, that kind of indicates to me that obviously, maybe Bitcoin isn't the, necessarily inflation hedge that people may think it is at this point in its maturity. But I'm tending to start to lean more bearish. I think, whether we're topped or not, I think there's only one more run if we aren't. I would say maybe to somewhere to the effect of like 130, but I'm kind of viewing the September rate cuts as a sell the news event, given that Fed Chair Powell already came out and said, we're probably going to cut. I think that's already fully baked into price. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that be a sell to the news event. I personally have a calendar reminder in for September 16th and 17th to short the rate cuts. So that's where my head's at. But I think the rubber is probably likely to hit the road before the year ends. It's just my 2 cents where I see it. But I think, generally we're not in that kind of phase where we're just going to bleed out. So even if we were topped, I think you can kind of preserve your bag to some extent, at least for in the meantime.
Yeah, what do you think, Drach? Do you think it's priced in 2 weeks?
I kind of agree with the sell the news event. I'm hoping that it gets me where I want to be at the end of the day. I don't know if it's priced in completely yet. I'm hoping for one more. I'm hoping for one more. And if that one more gets me to the targets that I'm kind of looking at, I'm beyond happy, and I'm gonna wipe my hands at that point. But I just struggle. There would really need to be, as always, another pump fund level event that kind of comes out of nowhere, like a left hook, to really make me think that the market's going to bounce to BTC at 135, 140, 150, or anything crazy like that. I mean, we've hit these all-time highs. We've hit these numbers. How much can you ask for in one go, right? How many new ATHs can you ask for? So yeah, it's tough.
Agreed. I think there's a common misperception that people think we're going higher, like, oh, the bull market's just starting amongst a lot of individuals, when in reality, if you look at where Bitcoin was 2-3 years ago, I think it was now, we're up 7x from previous lows. We've been in a bull market for quite some time. I think to your point, we are going to need some sort of significant news event to have any sort of major upthrust. I think that steam is running out, and so is time. So I'm not sure how much higher we get. I could see, a reasonably sized pump in the next 2 weeks into rate cuts, and then that being the top. I've joked about that in my inner circles, we'll look back in April and it'll be obvious that the rate cut event was the top, which, that's a very precise and unlikely prediction to come true, but I think there's some themes there we could take away. It's we don't have too much longer, in my opinion, until we kind of bleed out. But with that said, too, we have all these institutions involved now. I don't think bear markets are going to look the same either. I would assume that at least for Bitcoin, you're not going to see as much of a significant long-term bleed and drawdown like we have in previous years.
Yeah, I agree.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, yeah. I totally agree. And I think as well, you have this conversation over and over again, right? It's September, guys. Are we supposed to stay at all-time highs and in the middle of a bull into winter? Does that happen? There's so many, this timing is right for a pullback and for everything else. What I want to see is one more go so that I can benefit. And then after that, then I will get more bearish after that. But I do think it kind of all lines up. And now we're in this perfect play on where, we're going to be looking into January, February, just like we were this past year, where things were down, that, they had kind of pulled back and everything had happened there. And then what happened as soon as we got into the summertime, when things warmed up, March, April, May, that cycle is very predictable. There is a predictability to it. So I especially agree on the bears not looking anything like they used to anymore because of the institutional money that's come in. I mean, you've literally got, you have a extremely pro crypto administration, coupled with the fact that every single day there seems to be more advantages for using that kind of stuff. Just because the bull's not going to be here forever doesn't mean it's not going to come back. You know what I mean? We got years. We got so much time for this.
Agreed.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm still clinging to the fact that we're going to get 25 bips in a couple of weeks, and I do think there's room for 50 in November. That's just me being bullish. Now, to be fair, on this call, this call almost 2 years ago, we called the beginning of the structural bull market right before ETH Miami. So we've come a long way from where we were at 34K Bitcoin. That's for sure.
Good call.
What's interesting? What's that?
I said good call.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
What's interesting is that what we're going to talk about next was supposed to kind of be that moment, right? Is that people were talking about, I'm trying to remember who exactly said that it was supposed to be like probably the important crypto event of the century or something like that. Now that's people just being silly. But World Liberty Financial was that sale happening on Monday morning. It happened at 8 a.m. Eastern with regards to when 20% of the supply was deemed by the Dow to be sold and transferable and tradable on multiple markets on CEXs. I do have multiple friends who were in on the pre-sale at 15 cents that were able to cash out their 20%, and the rest is now house money rather in the moon back because of it wicking roughly up to, I want to say it wicked up past 75 cents. Maybe not. Well, it looked that way for a quick second, but they were able to make quite a bit of profit. So, World Liberty getting close to, above that 50-cent mark, not quite getting there after all the candles kind of settled. But there was a lot of brouhaha on this moment, thinking this was going to be almost like a Trump meme coin moment. So, yeah, we didn't quite get that, Luke. We didn't quite get that at all.
It's shorted to zero. Shorted to zero.
All right.
No doubt in my mind.
Well, it's one of those things where the problem is the product is the coin, I think, or something like that. I think is what somebody said, right, Jirachi?
Yeah, and I did the exact same thing. It was free money. If you opened up a short position, it was free dough. You were able to just cash in. And anybody who's still holding it, I don't think you're making a bad call if you've got a short open still. Like, there's just the problem with it being the product is I can't see a world where everybody is still excited about that. Like, if there's nothing coming down the pipe and there's no gain to be had and there's no anything like that, ultimately, this was just a really good example of a way to move money around in an obfuscated manner that causes less problems for people on the other side of it. And look, I'm not throwing stones. You kidding me? If I was in that position, there'd be a Jirachi coin up today. Like, there's no question,
I mean, look what happened with Mitch. Some of these other things
happened.
It's just one of these things where it's kind of funny where, anyone can go out there. I mean, and it's not on the docket, but Gavin Newsom was joking about launching a meme coin. He might actually do it at this point, which is just
I did see that.
I'm like, it's kind of cringe, brother. I would kind of just take the high road and just support from this. It just doesn't go well. Let me tell you right now. Don't do it. Don't.
Or at least drop the CA before you post it.
Exactly. God. Yeah. Just feel free to DM me. I'm just kidding. No, we're not going to do that. Bubble Maps is, it's always fascinating to see what Justin Sun is doing in this space, whether he's, moving stuff around for Tron or literally going to space. Man, what a life this man has lived, literally, with regards to, what's going on. So it's just kind of like, oh man, he's the largest holder of Trump coin. He's on the board for World Liberty. We're seeing some things happen behind the scenes, and I haven't talked about it here. I figured it'd be a lot of just kind of rehashing some old things about, as you mentioned, Jirachi, a lot of projects that are meant to benefit the other side. So ultimately, I mean, how much of this is just kind of like a smoke show, just trying to deflect and really just keep a fairly bored market moving along? What do you think?
I would say a lot of it, honestly. I mean, when you look at it though, like, this feels like end stage extraction. I mean, that kind of plays into my comments on, I think we're not too far from a bear market. Like, all of this is it's just froth. That's how I look at it. Like, it's not something that any serious investor would be interested in. It's all speculative froth, and the insiders are going to extract, and the losers are going to lose big, and it's a repetitive cycle. I mean, you saw it, even like a week, 10 days ago with the Kanye coin. That was another free short. Like, it's all crap.
What do you think, Jirachi?
The stunts aren't even creative anymore is the problem. At least with the funny stuff and with some of the things he was doing, it was like, haha, like that's a good time. But it might not seem like it right now, but I promise you the community is going to look back on all those stunts with vitriol. Like, they are, when we really enter into the next phase where people are down bad and the extraction has occurred and they start really focusing in on the people who benefited from that extraction, that's going to be the time whenever I think a lot of the negativity comes out. And one thing about Justin that's always interested me heavily too is, every conference that I've been to where Tron has played a role, or they've had a booth, or they've had something, they're never actually pushing Tron's brand, they're pushing Justin's. And so I do think as time goes by, that will continue to be seen for what it is, which is negative for the ecosystem. I mean, I just don't think that there's not like a real positive net gain from Justin Sun being an ultra crypto celebrity for Tron. There's just nothing there. That's their focus. I mean, I've been at conferences where they've been like, oh, well, we're giving out Tron t-shirts, but only to people who follow Justin Sun on Twitter. And it's like, oh, I get it, brother, but how about the foundation account at least? Like,
Yeah.
All of this stuff definitely the chain as a whole just feels like an advertisement vessel for him.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be fairly transparent about it. I've talked to them multiple times about working together in the name of education, and frankly, all they care about is UGC advertising Tron.
Yeah,
I'm like, okay, that's cool. So, I did want to focus a little bit on, honestly, the really positive things about what happened last week with regards to being on chain, because I think the future, regardless of how the market kind of prices it in, is really bright with regards to on chain. You mentioned it, Jirachi, with the on chain stuff. So I wanted to send a hearty congratulations to Keiko and the guys at Pith, our friends at Pith, and as well as our friends at Chainlink for becoming the official, I guess you'd call it, the accounting department for the U.S. government with regards to economic data. So this came out last Thursday. It was funny. I was having a conversation with a friend, and like a couple days before it happened, and I was like, it'd be kind of funny if they actually found a way to actually put GDP data online, since they seem to have this this talk, or rather this aura about being as transparent as possible. And it was kind of a funny conversation, and then it just kind of turned into what happened on Thursday. So we're getting 6 to 7 monthly and quarterly indicators, from regular real GDP to price indexes to I guess percent changes of final sales from private domestic purchasers, just some indicator data. It's going to be pushed out to 10 different blockchains. They didn't put Solana in the list, but technically Pith is a fork of L1 Solana. So if nobody knew that, there's the sauce. But so it's out on 10 blockchains. The others are Avalanche, Arbitrum, Botanics, which was interesting choice, Base, and 6 others that are here inside of the list. So I didn't have this on my bingo card at all for this year, but Jirachi, being somewhat connected in these circles, what are your thoughts on having the government actually pushing data on chain?
I bounce back and forth between it's a cute marketing stunt. Like, at least it aligns us closer to a world where our government is very much so okay with interacting with that kind of stuff, and I like it. But I really need to see predictions markets use I need to see people using it for something. Like, I really need to see the usage. I really need to know that it's there for more than just as like a store of information, which is equally good. Don't get me wrong. I am not trying at all to be like, we shouldn't have these things verifiably on chain so that they can't be edited. Of course we should. Like there should be copies of them. There should be a history we can all access anytime we want. That's open for all. Our taxes are the ones that fund this information gathering anyways. So it's ours intrinsically. But I do definitely feel like it's another example of them trying to do more positive crypto stuff without having to actually do very much of anything at all. And that's, I'm with it. Like, I get it. I would rather see things like this happening than nothing happen. Like, that's what I don't want. I don't want there to be nothing. So yeah, I like it. I think it's good. I just think it's performative in nature, partially, until someone uses it for something. And then, maybe I'll change my opinion a little more.
Yeah, Luke. So the chains, and I apologize for not listing them all because they're right in front of my face. Arbitrum, Avalanche, Base, Botanics, Ethereum Mainnet, Linea. Wow, cool. Mantle, Optimism, Phantom Sonic, and ZK Sync along with Solana, are the chains that are going to have this data. And it's already live actually on Solana. I'm not sure if everybody else has gotten them running yet, but as coming from a company that potentially could model this data, or at least use some of this data for specific AI modeling. What are your thoughts on having this available as a feed now that you can just use?
Yeah, I would kind of echo Jirachi's comments. It definitely feels a little performative to me as well. But I mean, I would also, echo some comments I've made in the past on this same very show. It's like the more that we can do as a society, and it's led by our government, is to legitimize crypto. I think that's going to be better for the long-term health of these ecosystems. So, I mean, I don't see necessarily a ton of value in it in the interim, but I think it's one of those things where, it's good for it projects well long term, even if there's not a major impact in the short term. So, I mean, I'm happy to see the continued pro crypto approach from our government. I think it's one of the best things they're doing right now is really like taking the lead on crypto, whereas in the past a lot of regulators in our government and many governments globally have just kind of continued to either ignore crypto or pigeonhole it into this category of, crypto is evil, it doesn't belong, like, let's outlaw it. Why not accept it and make the United States a hub of innovation for crypto? So long-term good, I would say. Yeah,
I completely agree. And shout out to, I forgot his name. I know his first name is Bam. But the representative from the Philippine Congress, they're also looking to put all of their budget on chain, specifically on Polygon. So, and I'm Filipino, I can make this joke. It should have been on Ronin with Axie Infinity. That's just me personally, but it's coming back to L2. So that's going to fall on deaf ears. That's just me. That's a joke for me personally. But there is one group that will be using this very well. And it's part of, one of the things that we have in terms of the on-chain future. One of the simplest things to code, if you are a smart contract developer, right, Jirachi, is the prediction market. It is by far one of the first things you're going to learn when you're learning how to code in Solidity, in Rust, in WebAssembly, in CosmWasm, whatever you're using to create something. Just creating a simple option type of contract. But this is pretty fresh off the floor. It went live right before we went live. Polymarket has been given the green light by the CFTC to go live in the USA. Bunch this in with all of this new data that's coming down, the partnership with X. So now they're the official prediction market of Twitter. We're seeing others like Myriad Markets, which is on Abstract. There is, Drift on Solana and some others that are out there. Kalshi, of course, is another one that's big out there. We're going to see more of these prediction markets become, I don't know. I mean, it's like one of these things where it's like live polling, but in a more decentralized way. I don't know if we necessarily see these coming on chain. Just as a rehash, we had Sisla from Flix.fun as our panelist last week. They're working on creating an interface for us so we can actually have a prediction market live here as we stream for people to vote on, which is going to be so cool to get in there. But I mean, this is like the new come up of being on chain using these prediction markets. So Jirachi, I'll start with you as a dev. You're along with me yourself. Man, Man.
Let me tell you right now, as soon as I can gamble on GDP, I'm going to switch up on all of you. We'll never talk again.
There we go.
Yeah.
We're hedging. We're hedging. We're buying both. We're buying all 4 options.
No, I look, give me more ways to gamble. Give me more ways to gamble. Like I am not the type of person, you will never ever catch me being like anything like, please give me more options to choose from. I will use them. Like I think lots of people, they're casual gamblers. Gambling is not just a hobby for me, it's a way of life. So whenever I see people building new and interesting things with prediction markets, I'm always like, oh, I can predict things good. Like, please let me tag in on this. So I'm very bullish about that. I didn't even see that announcement myself until you showed that to us just now. I had no idea. So that's awesome. That's great. Let me excuse me while I open along. Hold on one second. That's a good setup there.
Oh my goodness. Well, along with this, Eric Lee, definitely one to check out. You can check out in the show notes, later on if you want to check out what we're talking about here. But, he's calling it as a way, because in a way you can hedge trade here, right? And depending on which prediction market you're going with, that's going to be the new way to kind of do this. And that's kind of the fun extra functionality that you get with doing prediction markets on chain. So, Luke wanted to get your thoughts on this as well. This now becoming, getting the green light, which will green light a whole lot of things to, I mean, is it really different than what we're seeing like on ESPN and stuff like this, or live polling, that type of thing? But, it's cool that it's here, at least from the on-chain perspective.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think obviously, we're, Taoshi's kind of in the business of predictions in financial markets. So, to kind of echo Jirachi's comments, like I'm someone who enjoys gambling too, and predicting. I think I'm an all right trader. So the more that we can bring these things on chain, I think the better. So I'm pretty excited about it too. I think, I honestly didn't think that I would see this day come. I thought that poly market was going to be, cracked down on pretty hard. But now we're sitting on the opposite side of the coin, so it's pretty cool to see.
I mean, the rise of poly market in a year should be studied, right?
Dude, weren't the three of us on this podcast together earlier this year talking about how sad it was that poly market wasn't doing the thing? Like we were just
we were.
I don't even recall that. That's funny. I think too, you can even talk about how accurate their predictions have been. Like there's been a number of things that poly market has been first to, in terms of like you start to see the percentage trend up, and then it ends up happening, or it ends up not happening based on what poly market is saying. It's like a leading indicator, more so than a following one, which is, I think, really interesting to see too, because you can use that for data points and a bunch of different things.
Yeah, it's literally like product reviews on Amazon now, right? It is what poly market has pretty much become. And it's interesting because I think this all leads towards trying to rebalance what we feel like a source of truth would be, right? Because if you partner poly market with, for example, Ethos Network and some of these other projects that are coming out, trying to build reputation along with, obviously betting on outcomes and just trying to see, literally how is the crowd feeling on some of these topics, you can get some, as you mentioned, you can unlock some really interesting leading indicators. It's really going to be interesting to see where prediction markets lead a lot of conversations moving forward, because I think they're going to become the next Kleenex. They're going to be the next Xerox. I think they're going to be the next Google, right? They're going to become a verb at this point on what you should do if you're very curious about if someone has an opinion, what should you do? I don't know. Let's check that. Let's poly market it or something like that, right? It's going to happen, and congrats to them. I mean, for them being a fairly niche project on Polygon as a blockchain, to now being in the mainstream conversation on what's going on. So, I mean, if you guys feel the same way, if you're out there in the audience, again, please feel free to comment, give us your thoughts. Would love to hear it. Want to thank, of course, Jirachi and Luke for being here. We're very, like I said, we're just in an interesting time. And I want to thank them for their time. Obviously, one thing I also want to do, if you're enjoying the show so far, please like, subscribe, follow, support in any way that you like. Tell a friend. That's the best way you can support us. Let everybody know, because our job here is to educate you, our audience, on all of the information that's coming out on a weekly basis, and you get it from some of the best minds in this space. So I genuinely thank these guys for coming on, because they're such bright minds. I really respect their opinions. And if you want to learn more about getting into decentralized finance, on-chain, blockchain investing, please check out our free group at school.com/beacon. It's absolutely free to join. This is where this is my baby. I've been building, what's been here for the last 4 years with regards to content. So if you're looking to get in safely and securely into this space, so we can check out Polymarket and get in and start, hedging your bets and playing those markets for a possible Polymarket airdrop, please feel free to join us. And, buy a Taoshi t-shirt from Luke, because he just showed us his Taoshi logo.
Yeah, well, I was trying to see something behind my computer.
No, you're fine.
Free advertising for Taoshi.
You can check out my shirt, which is "Don't Touch My File." That's a pinata shirt. What do you know about pinata? Shout out to my local pinata people here in Eastern Nebraska. Met them in New York City for the first time after being, around each other for years. It was good to finally meet them. So, like I said, join us. It's absolutely free. You can check out our Start Here post and find out the rest of our offerings. If you want to be amongst the best, check out our Beacon Mastermind. You can take the Beacon Challenge and earn your first $1 in DeFi within 48 hours. So, I'll talk about the next thing now that we're looking to do. Thanks to our friends at SoulForge Fusion. It's a hybrid TCG deck game. It's on both Solana and Base. You can download it on Steam. This is something we're going to be doing with the community. So if you are a TCG enjoyer, like myself and possibly Luke and definitely Jirachi, feel free to join us. We're going to start having some games within our community, maybe a tournament. We have a nice generous stipend from SoulForge Fusion to give out monthly for tournaments. So this is something we're going to be working on. Look out for that in our communities. We actually also have booster deck codes for anybody who wants to join us. You're going to get some free cards for your decks. So this game is from the one of the creators of Magic the Gathering. So this is a game you can play online and also in person. So you can actually, and thanks to Taco, Player One Taco, for putting me onto this game. He actually owns a really badass box set. So also shout out to Crimson from SoulForge Fusion. He's actually going to be sending me some in-person packs that I can open on stream. So I'll be streaming this on my retake as well as my abstract as we continue to learn how to play this game. And if you want to play along, join our tournament. Just check us out, school.com/beacon. Join up, and we'll get you right. We'll have a good time. Back to the news, guys. Athena, Arthur Hayes, Athena, Dragonfly, Maelstrom. The fee switch is now is now a top priority because they have hit 12 billion in circulation. That is a ridiculous number for, frankly, a coin when it first came out, offering a rebase, or rather, let's rephrase that. You can't say rebase anymore. A rewards program of 26% at launch, because they were doing rewards from validator staking with your minting funds, as well as but playing ETH futures. They added BTC futures to that as well, and probably another couple ones that they're very transparent on their website on Athena.fi if you're curious about what the actual funds are going into. But man, has that launched a bunch of ships in the same vein, Jirachi. So this is specifically with the idea of having ENA stakers get a revenue share based on what's coming from the rewards. Now they had specific milestones, 3 of them, that they wanted to hit before they actually had the vote on the fee switch. The first is circulating supply needs to surpass 6 billion. It's double that. The cumulative revenue needs to hit 250, which they have also hit. And then the USDE token must be integrated on 4 of the top 5 centralized exchanges by derivative volumes, which they're close to. They are now the top 3 stablecoin by market cap. I mean, it's USDT, USDC, and then USDE, which, I mean, again, another journey that needs to be studied over the last year. Amazing journey for Athena and what they've been able to do, and all the people who are starting to copy them and what they're doing. So I'll start with you, Jirachi, with regards to this move to possibly award ENA stakers. In full disclosure, I am a not a full sender, but I'm a longtime DCAer of ENA as a good ETH beta play.
I think this is a good way to go about rewarding people who are participating in your ecosystem. Actually, like this method and this way, I've seen it done 10,000 different ways, and I've seen people try a million different ways. I mean, at this point, when you get up there and your valuation starts to go sky high, in my opinion, it starts to become difficult to do anything besides reward your community for what has happened, what's taken place, because if you continue down the pathway of like, oh, well, now we can extract more now that we've hit this milestone, or, oh, we've like secured this much TVL or whatever, the community turns bearish on you, reasonably so. There's no incentive for them to be excited about continuing with you. So I think things like this it's a good way forward. That's a good way. Hey, yeah, there you go. Perfect.
You want to talk about bearish holders? Uniswap?
Yeah. No, for real. Yeah. And that's the kind of stuff we see it all the time. And I think that as people build these new products, old ones that did shit like that's they're going to get pushed out. They're old. Now, some of them are kind of bleeding into the category of too big to fail, but they don't necessarily need to fail to lose mind share. Each one, both options are equally bad.
Chris, you're muted.
No, I was just saying goodbye to my wife. She's heading out, but Luke, I definitely wanted to get your thoughts on this. I know that you're not, huge into staking this, or rather gathering this specific ecosystem coin, but you would think that this kind of stuff makes sense to holders, right? Because ultimately it's taken more than 3 years for uni stakers to even get a sniff of a fee switch after Uniswap started charging per swap on the main UI and earning millions of dollars hands over fist daily off of this to not share with stakers. And sorry to Uniswap if you don't like me saying that, but it's true. As a uni holder myself, there should be a fee switch to reward the uni stakers and the uni holders that are long-term holders specifically. So
yeah, I mean, when you're just thinking high level, I mean, this is not my expertise in any way, but I mean, if you want to incentivize your holders to hold, you have to have some sort of way to do so, right? Which is, I think, kind of what you're alluding to. I mean, if you upset your holders, especially if you're looking into a bear market or you're in one, I mean, it's not going to be pretty because you're not going to have buying pressure, and then your own base is, selling. I think that's obviously going to cause major problems for your token in the long run. So you have to find ways to properly incentivize holders to do so. Otherwise, I think your token's doomed. I think that really goes for pretty much anything except Bitcoin, right?
Right. And what's interesting is that they've taken a different approach, right? So just to kind of, give the flowers back to Uniswap, they decided to wait until more of this DAO entity stuff was probably a lot more mature. Now that there's multiple people going to Wyoming to create a Duna for their DAO, which is a decentralized unincorporated nonprofit association. This probably opens the door for the fee switch, and finally we're going to see some things come back to uni stakers. So hat tip to Athena for doing this. This is something that especially right now in this phase of the cycle where we're looking to start to accumulate altcoins and beta plays. ENA's been on my list forever. So I mean, this is in my opinion, probably, if they move forward, this is a no-brainer. Obviously not financial advice. Do your own research. We are degens. So specifically, I think this is very bullish alpha for anybody who's looking for what should I buy? What's out there that makes sense? This makes sense, in my personal opinion. Anything that has to do with stable coins, issuers, anything like that, I think makes a lot of sense. And yeah. Anyway, thanks for you guys' thoughts on that. We'll go ahead and move on to specifically this thing. And again, we're talking about being bullish on the on-chain future. There's a lot of people who are probably watching this show that frankly know nothing about what it means to be on-chain. What is a blockchain investment? Why is crypto quote unquote funny money? Guys, that if the fact that the US government putting their data online isn't enough of a signal for you, along with, you know, practically the entire cabinet having their hands in the crypto cookie jar, regardless of how you feel about it, it at least brings that legitimacy to crypto as a vehicle. Now, is there probably crime and all kinds of dumb crap that's out there? Yes, of course. You'll find that with anything. People talk about money laundering all the time. You want to know what money laundering is also done in? The US dollar, right? Let's not be silly about this. This is just a better way to keep people accountable, I guess, if you want to talk about, because the blockchain is transparent in most cases. But this article from Adam, the dashboard guy, and these are some great Dune dashboards. If you've never been to Dune.com, check out Dune.com. The reason why blockchain is great is because all this data is available. We can actually track all of this stuff. You don't have to worry if they're manipulating or cooking the books. The numbers are out there. Numbers don't lie, as they say on ESPN. Solana is up, so is ETH. Stablecoin supply is probably going to reach, it's almost 300 billion. And there could be, in the next couple of years, like a $2 or $3 trillion business. So yes, you want to get in now when it's early. When you're trying to figure things out, everybody else is figuring it out as well. And if you're okay with that, being a risk-on person, especially right now in a bull market, these are things that make a lot of sense. And this is more Solana glazing. That's fine. More Solana. This guy's got a lot of Solana glazing charts. I personally have never used Axiom, but the fact that they've got hundreds of thousands of wallets kind of trading on here is really good. Meme coins are meme coins. They're the engine, the oil for a lot of this stuff. But really, I'll start with you, Luke, because of your comments earlier. Like, you have to, I guess, in your circles, what's keeping people from coming on chain? Because you gotta be bullish on a lot of this news.
To me, it seems like it's really just a lack of education. It was just funny I say that because we're on the Beacon DeFi show,
right?
But I think there's this almost like a stigma in a sense. Like, people are scared because they don't want to touch what they don't know. Like, you see like a weird substance somewhere, like, I don't know, just for example, like there's something growing in your fridge because you don't want to touch it because you don't know what it is. Like, you haven't seen that food in forever. I kind of think of blockchain in like the same way. I think there's just a general lack of knowledge. And then when you throw in the fact that you're going to be investing your own hard-earned dollars, people are afraid to lose that. So if they don't know the right way to go about it, they don't know, what to do, I think people get nervous. And there's a lot of traditional, I guess, boomer adjacent mindsets as well, where people think that the only way you can invest is through, allocating a portion of your biweekly check to an index fund.
Or an IRA.
So it's kind of this ancient mindset that in a modern world where you have this entire new asset class, like, you have to adapt. And I don't think a lot of people have adapted. I think, if you're looking at an S curve of adoption, I think we're still on the early adopters. We haven't really started to climb that S so much, maybe a little bit, but I think when, we have everyone who's really looking at Bitcoin or altcoins or what have you as a part of a complete portfolio, then I think that's when we've really reached the top of the S curve.
Yeah, so we're in a phase now, Jirachi, where 401ks are going to be allowed to get into more capital efficient products like crypto. So it's almost like it's just going to be kind of forced on a lot of people. I just saw that, gosh, in Australia, so they have something called the super annuity that everybody kind of puts money into, and it earns like 12%. So I don't know what the hell the US is doing with theirs, but I mean, put me on the super plan. But apparently there's actual super, they're called SMSF funds. Basically, they're just kind of like very similar. They're actually going to also be putting crypto into those as well. So I don't know, your thoughts as someone, you see, a lot of young people, you see them around, what do you think it's going to take for people to be bullish about getting into investing on chain?
Oh man,
I saved this one for last. That's why.
Yeah, no, it's tough. It's tough because we ask these questions all the time. Like we're always talking about this, and there's kind of two stories that I think about. Not even stories, but two examples I think about whenever I'm talking about this. Is when I'm talking to my friends who aren't involved in crypto. Not that I have a lot of those anymore. When I'm talking to my friends who aren't involved in crypto, a lot of times they have it's just exactly like Luke mentioned. Not only is it this, well, it's a scam, this opinion of, well, it's a scam, but the other half of it is equally dangerous in that they've got this opinion that it's just like free money that's there for them to become billionaires with. So you've got these guys who are on total polar opposite ends of the spectrum with completely polar opposite expectations of what's going to happen. And nobody's expectation of what's going to happen if they interact with crypto seems to be like that my retirement will come closer or be easier or be better in some way. They don't perceive it like that because when they hear us talk about crypto, a lot of times they think about, oh, these guys are, they're making $50,000 a week, like trading Ethereum or some bullshit like that. And that's not the majority. That's not even close to what most people are touching or using or doing. And so they get discouraged because they're like, oh, what? You're saying I've got to do a ton of work and I can't make $50,000 with no effort every single week? Well, what's the point? And it's like, well, the point is it's another asset class for you. The point is, if this is something that's fascinating to you, you don't need a Series 7 to trade crypto. You don't, not that you need it for stocks, but to go work for a firm, to work on Wall Street. And, the more you talk about it with them, there's this really shitty human characteristic that was taught from school, like that we were all taught from school. And it's to silo things based off of our current level of understanding of them into these different categories about, would I touch that? Is that something I would ever be interested in? Like, these different things. So you've got scores and scores and scores of people who leave school and they've never even been exposed to a financial topic, much less to something like crypto. So then you go to the Ivy Leagues and the private schools and the top tier stuff, and that's taught from them from grade 6. Like they're getting classes on financial literacy from an early time. So it's this systemic thing where I can't even get people excited about traditional investment, much less in crypto, which is an alternative asset class. You know. So it's hard. It's really tough. The only way that I've found so far that has actually stuck, and the people who I've really onboarded to crypto have stuck around, is people who were already excited about technology. They were already, they were excited about the advancements. They loved, maybe not blockchain, but how it worked in a general, developers, coders, those kinds of people, because they're fascinated with the tech. So they grow an obsession with it and they like it a lot. But for normal everyday people, I mean, I can't even get people to do something as simple as when they see on the news that they missed out on Bitcoin to just buy some and hold it. They just, it's not in their vocab. So I agree heavily on the education aspect that Luke hit. There's just this lack of preparation for people to even have a baseline amount of knowledge to be able to interact with it. They just can't. It's sad. It sucks. It puts us in a position where we're having to educate people on things that don't even have anything to do with our ecosystem necessarily for them to feel comfortable about interacting with what we do.
I'm just going to have to say it. We're going to have to raise some funds and do a road show, guys. We're just going to have to take this show on the road and talk about, going to different places, getting in front of people, young and old, to really just talk about, you can control your future, because this is really about self-custody. There's a lot of people who are scared because they can't trust themselves on something that they don't know. And I think you guys hit on that really well. But I do think that with regards to, what you can do, and I think it's about meeting your audience where they are, right? So for example, I'm going to shout out our friends from Axel. They're partnered with MoonPay. Go check them out. 6 to 10% stablecoin savings account. It's on the phone, right? This is great marketing because it's on the phone. This is what's in front of everybody's face 24/7. If you can figure out a way, if we can onboard you to just start with this, because your bank account will earn you pennies compared to this. And even if you're even just kind of bearish on it, just having another vehicle, another way to diversify the portfolio portfolio, just consider it, even with like $100. I challenge you, and maybe this is the way we need to do it, is just literally like take $100, put it in this protocol, and then put it in your bank, and then we'll check in 6 months which one made you more money. Pretty sure it's not going to be anything in TradFi. I can tell you that.
Yeah,
based on what we have here. All right, somebody write up the business plan. Let's go do this. Let's go do this. All right, I'm gonna end on this before we wrap up again. Thanks, guys, for being here. This is a very interesting article, mainly because of where it's sitting in the geopolitical space. And this is President Xi Jinping. He's they're in Shanghai for a multinational summit here called the Shanghai Cooperative Organization Summit. Here's the thing. The U.S. isn't there. But one thing that he's talked about specifically is that he doesn't want AI to turn into a Cold War mentality. Because right now, if you think about where we are with regards to AI and the movement there, we have, you could say that the U.S. is with ChatGPT and Claude and all this stuff is really against, the DeepSeeks, the Alibabas, the different types of models that are coming out from the Chinese that are, frankly, not necessarily running laps around them, but from a standpoint of just it being more accessible and cheaper to use with less hardware, probably more efficient in the long run. They're looking to become, and this is an interesting sentence. The meeting comes as China seeks to cast itself as a global peacemaker against a backdrop of persistent trade tensions with the U.S. Guys, I know this isn't necessarily crypto related, but AI is a big part of crypto now and on-chain and whatnot. We'll talk a little bit more about BitTensor in a second, but I mean, this finding a way for everyone to work together and not turn this into a Cold War mentality is going to be interesting because, we know that President Trump, they have the American Bitcoin Initiative. They have all of this stuff from projects with Stargate, trying to create the U.S. as the leader of this on the globe. So I'll start with you, Luke. Do you think that this could turn into a global issue where this could become a leading indicator for risk on assets and stuff like that? Because trade wars and trade tensions have affected markets, and AI can definitely be a big part of this on, who's got the better tech.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that this is I think really, I mean, when you see Xi Jinping posturing like this, to me, it feels like that's something who only knows that they're behind in the race would say, right? Like, I think that naturally we have these world superpowers that are going to be positioned against each other just because of the global dynamics, and it will become a race. So I actually just linked in our private chat this really interesting article I read called AI 2027. You can listen to it or watch it or read it. Sorry. It's about a 40-minute read. Super interesting take on actually this exact topic, which is really, what does a race look like between us and China and AI? And it's also how it affects the market. So if anyone is interested in the topic, I highly recommend you go read this. I think that it's a dual outcome ending, but regardless, it kind of evaluates the side by side of U.S. versus China, how that might look. And also, too, one of the interesting things that I learned from this article was that, 6 months time or however many months time is exponentially far ahead in terms of AI. So if we're 4 months ahead in development, the AI power we have might be 10x or 100x that of a foreign adversary. So super interesting article in general. I think it kind of hits on this news that you talked about. And, back to your point, really, I think it's hard to avoid kind of a race for power. It's just really our geopolitical structure, right? I mean, I don't see there being a one world order anytime soon, just given how things are. So innately, I would expect an AI race, and I would think that would naturally affect markets as well too. There will be a lot of ripple effects as this heats up.
Yeah, I mean the network effects of this is insane. Jirachi. I mean, we went from having, the space race in the 80s and the 90s now to the AI race here in this part of the 2020s. So, as Luke mentioned, how quickly things are moving. Think about the Will Smith experiment with regards to creating that video of him eating spaghetti. I mean, look at how far VO has come just from Google. And I mean, it's scary how quickly they're starting to move on this stuff. And that's why, and I'm going to talk about this before I let you loose on it. That's why, and that's where Luke operates here in the world of BitTensor. Specifically about decentralizing this process, because, in the face of this type of article, we need to be in a world where no sovereign entity owns AI, right? I think overall, having all of these subnets with digital super commodities that are AI based, that are able to send to multiple nation states, or just whatever the structure is going to be, why we're so bullish on that. And shouts out to bittensor.ai and tau.app for having this material available. If you've never heard of Tau, if you've never heard of BitTensor, definitely check this out, especially in the face of, if you're going to read this article from Luke. Everyone's talking about what's Claude, OpenAI, and all of them are going to be doing. I would be really watching where you can find opportunity in this to become a bigger part of a more democratized way to handle AI data. So go ahead, Jirachi. I'll let you close the floor.
No, I'm a huge proponent on the advancement of AI. It's my jam. That's my deal. Especially even the previous people I was working with, amazing, fantastic people building amazing, fantastic things in the AI space makes me excited. I think as we continue on, we're going to see this. It's going to be this unfortunate situation where we've spent quite a bit of time now, and we're kind of branched off in this world where we're making individual models and agents and these different things for these specific use case type applications, because that's where the technology is right now. Having to fine tune it for individual things, it's a whole lot easier to make a DeepSeek model that's been trained to process invoices than it is to make a DeepSeek model that's been trained to process every invoice that's ever existed. It's much easier to just do this specific use case application, but we're getting so much better at such an advancing rate that I think that anybody, like all these companies for individual agents that do one thing that we've seen pop up and raise these billions of dollars for across the VC ecosystem, they're all going to be torn to pieces and like left by the wayside in less than 24 months. In the next 24 months, we're going to see a world where these super agents are going to be doing things, and they're going to be able to do them in ways that we never could have predicted up until this point. The advancement that's happening right now is happening so quickly and at such a big scale, it's hard to even explain it or put it into words because it's so siloed. You have so many companies working on so many different things. If every single one of them had visibility into what the other one was building today, we'd probably have AGI before the end of the year. And that's just how much is being done on all of these different components. You have entire companies that are focused on emotional interpretation from agents. You have entire companies focused on just logic. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. We're going to see new models come out trained on specific things that are going to absolutely blow us away in the next 6 months. And that's why I'm such a huge proponent of BitTensor, period. Not to bring it all the way back to Luke here and bring it all back to BT and Taoshi in general, but the BitTensor network is incentivized based off of merit. And that is the way forward. The more that we deal with people who were rewarding people for doing the best and creating the best, that's what makes advancement happen faster. What we're seeing in quite a few places right now is, well, it's not necessarily about advancement. This tool works for me, and that's all I need it to do. So I'm just going to keep paying for this. And maybe they're not even updating it anymore. Maybe they're not even continuing. But the Lukes of the world and the Taoshis of the world and the people who are continuing to do everything that they can to make merit-based improvement to their models, what it looks like today and what it looks like in a year is just going to be completely impossible to compare. It's crazy. I mean, the advancement's so quick. Even things that I was in January like, oh my God, this is going to be kind of hard. Well, it's September now, and I saw them build things that blow my mind. It absolutely blows me away. So I do think we're accelerating very quickly, and it's going to keep compounding on top of each other as time goes by.
I just want to do a quick shout out to Jen Zio, for having me, listen to a panel last night that was supposed to be on memes, but it actually was hosted by this subnet, and they're democratizing fact checking at scale in the BitTensor ecosystem. So just leave that up there for a second. We'll move on. I want to thank our guest today, of course, for being here. Fantastic show, fantastic takes. Jirachi, head of ecosystem at Drosera. Let the people know what they can learn about Drosera and where they can find you.
Absolutely, guys. If you have any automation needs or anything within Solidity, the EVM environment, or Ethereum period, where you can think to yourself, it would really benefit me to have unlimited gas here. I would really love to be able to run Solidity as infrastructure as a service, or more importantly, if there's unique state and event data things that you would like to see created in the world that smart contracts can't do, Drosera can do all of that. We've taken smart contracts and we've made them better in a way that's hard to even compare the original version to. You will very, very, very much so like the developer experience working with us because you don't have to go learn anything new. Instead, you just get an entire new suite of additions to what your normal tool set looks like, and you could do far more with it than you ever could before. So if anybody's building an ETH and they're interested in expanding their capabilities far beyond what a normal smart contract can do, please reach out to me, reach out to Drosera. We'd love to talk.
And if you're going to be at KBW, Tokyo Blockchain Week, or Token in Singapore, please seek out this man. One of the nicest guys I've ever met in my life. Very good human. Thanks for being here, Jirachi. Always a pleasure having you on. Safe travels to you as you head out to the east.
I appreciate it so much, brother. Thank you. And please, if there's anybody who's going to be Japan, Korea, Singapore for any of the conferences this next month and the month after coming up, I owe you a drink. Please send me a message.
Ooh, he's bribing you with alcohol already. Now we're talking. And of course, another great panel with you, the rock star Luke from Taoshi, BitTensor subnet number 8, the proprietary trading network. Man, Glitch is moving, brother. Glitch Financial is moving. Tell the group more about it.
Yeah, man, we've got a lot going on. On the Taoshi side, we just deployed collateral on PTN. So if you would want to come mine, we are looking for highly qualified traders, and we'll cover your collateral, so up to $5,000 in registration fees. And you take 100% of the reward for trading. Top traders make 1 to 2 million annualized. So exciting stuff there. On the Glitch side, right now, we will be at Money 2020 in Las Vegas. Myself and 2 of my colleagues will be there. So if you are there, come give us a shout.
When is that?
End of October. It's October 26th, 29th in Vegas. It's a very fintech heavy conference.
I might have to go to that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Not super blockchain focused, but good for something like Glitch. I recommend looking into it. But on the Glitch side, we have working on becoming US compliant here so that we can bring on US clients soon, looking like mid-October for that. Working on getting some custodial options too. So if you want to just, instead of setting up your accounts, we can do all the work for you. So that's in the works too. And then next week, we have a pretty big announcement on the way too. BitTensor related. We're working on a new product. I won't say too much. I definitely need to keep my mouth shut. I'm pretty excited, but we got something big cooking for next week. So keep an eye out.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see this one.
This is completely outside of the scope of PTN on Subnet 8, completely outside of the scope of Glitch. So it should be pretty cool. I'm excited to share with the community. Been working behind the scenes for the last month or 2 on it, and then a long way to go, but we're really stoked about it. So it should be pretty cool.
Just in time for the Tau halving.
Yeah, that's on the way too. Yeah, which will be interesting.
Yeah, so if you guys are interested in BitTensor, Tau token, their first halving is coming before the end of the year. So we'll see how that works out. We do this call every Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern. We've been doing it since December 2021, guys. Our goal is to educate you on how you can get into on-chain and blockchain investing. We'll talk about the news. We have great projects who come on here and introduce themselves too. We got another one coming up next week. Really excited to continue to do this show. Thanks to all of our Beacon Mastermind founding members as well, who help do what we do. A very special mission. But yeah, that's all we have for this week. We'll see you next week again. Follow our panelists on their socials. I'll have them in on the post on Twitter, and we'll see you next time. So with that said, thanks for joining us. Hopefully you got great value. If you did, please follow, like, subscribe, all that jazz. We'll see you next week. Beacons up, banks down. Take care, everybody. Have a great day.